me sit down with you today. You know, it's interesting, the revolution was not anything that the diaspora, we were just spectators. This was a purely organic effort in Armenia. So as much as I was sort of amused by all the statements that were coming out of diaspora organizations and the different organizations around the world, we were just spectators basically. So this was something that was done by Armenians in Armenia, and really Armenian Americans and people, Armenian Russians and Europeans really didn't have much to say about this. It was purely something domestic. Now, as far as the Armenian Assembly is concerned, we don't get involved in what happens internally in Armenia, and we ask that Armenia doesn't get involved in what happens in the United States. So we would not interfere until after the elections and after a leader was chosen and people of Armenia decided. In this case, fantastic. I was very, very, we were all very proud of Armenia, how Armenia reacted. Whether it was those who went to the streets, it was the police, it was the government, how it responded. It actually was something that we can all be proud of. It was a true democratic moment.
What do you think will change this movement, this revolution, in case of Armenian-US relations? I mean, will US consider Armenia as a more different country than before? Do you think there will be more funding from US, or they will just consider Armenia as a country, post-Soviet country, which is more closer to Russia?
That's a good question. So here's how I see it. America, the United States, had always put a high bar on Armenia. They would always tell us, Armenia can do better because it was a democratic society. Now they've reached that goal. So I'm going to be a little bit self-critical of my own government. Now that Armenia has reached this benchmark, it's up to the United States to support democracy. How does it support democracy? All the Europeans, the Americans, the Russians, they need to come and invest in Armenia. Armenia is open for business. The government needs assistance with helping them to develop what is a very prosperous, a very good environment for the economy. Look, in every society, whether it's the United States, or it's Armenia, or it's Russia, it's about security and jobs. So if Armenia is at a place that should be rewarded, which it should be, then it needs jobs and it needs good security. And
do you think there are obstacles about these conditions before?
I think on the job side or on the economic side, people wouldn't invest in Armenia because they're not sure of the environment. Now it's a very open environment. It's open concept environment. So I think now would be the time, if I were speaking to my own government, I'd say start encouraging businesses to come to Armenia, create jobs in Armenia, reward Armenia for being the only democracy in this part of the world. Georgia's done a good job. I think Armenia is going to do a better job because it has a real government that is looking to fight corruption.
Your organization did a lot of work on the issue of Armenian genocide. And now should we expect more from US because of changes in Armenia, or do you think there is a connection and our US is on agenda?
Our position there is very clear that the governments of the world need to recognize the Armenian genocide because it happened. It's the truth. It's a moral issue. Whether it's Israel, whether it's the United States, whether it's Arab countries, those countries that have not recognized the genocide is a real problem for them. It's not necessarily a problem for Armenians and Armenian Americans. We know the record. The US record is clear on genocide. It's up to them to do what's morally right and to recognize the genocide.
Do you think this new government should do anything else that the previous governments didn't?
Actually, I think this is a good time for self-reflection. So I'm going to turn that. I think it's now a new day for Armenian leaders outside of Armenia, Armenian American leaders, Russian Armenian leaders, European Armenian leaders. We have to do a better job. Honestly, in self-reflection, we're not that good. We need to do a better job in coordinating with the Armenian government. We can't take direction from the Armenian government, but we can understand their priorities, and then we choose what we can work on with the Armenian government in terms of a U.S. organization that wants to support and promote U.S.-Armenia relations.
And one more question about U.S.-Armenia relations, and we'll move forward.
I think that is exactly what they should do. They should support the democracy of Armenia. So if Armenia is the growing democracy in the region, if Azerbaijan attacks Armenia, they're attacking a democratic state. So you have a dictatorship attacking a democratic state. So therefore, if the United States, if the European Union wants to support democracy in the region, then it has to equip Armenia to defend itself and to have true security, because democracies need to be secure. So I would encourage the United States government to do everything in its power, whether it's defense, whether it's supplying know-how and weaponry. I think they need to do it.
I want to ask you about diaspora Armenians changes, let's say, about Armenian government and new changes in Armenia. But as you know, there is a story about the foundation, Armenian Foundation, and there are some, let's say, news about the director who spent some money from that budget of that foundation for online casinos. How this will affect the attitudes of diaspora Armenians towards Armenia, towards funding Armenia, towards sending money for some business?
I think this follows in line with what's happening in Armenia. There needs to be a clear look at every institution, whether it be in Armenia or outside of Armenia, and there has to be a true accounting and audit. In this case, the Armenian Fund is no different than what's going on in any government ministry here. It should be looked at. If there's corruption, those elements should be purged, and Armenia needs to be seen as a straightforward, transparent government, and their institutions, whether it be Armenia Fund, need to also be transparent. I don't think this will affect donations coming to Armenia if that happens. If they make the change necessary, which is in place. I received a letter from the president today saying that they need to bring everyone together to choose a new head of Armenia Fund. That needs to be somebody who is transparent, that understands the rule of law, and builds trust among Armenian American organizations and Armenian American community and Armenia.
Did you send funding to this organization?
Absolutely, we all contribute.
And when do we know after all these stories?
As I said to you,
I mean personally.
right? No, there are organizations in the United States that get breached for issues of fraud and corruption. If they don't show themselves to correct the problem, people will stop dealing with those organizations. If they deal with it immediately, then public trust will rise and people will go back and support. I have no doubt that institutions are not built on personalities. So it's about the institution. The institution has to clear itself and build public confidence.
Now there are some discussions among the new government about changing of laws to give opportunity to diaspora Armenians to come to work in government as well. What's your opinion on this? Should they make these changes, and what will do for this? I mean, contribute.
So we've always, I'm an Armenian American. I'm very proud to be an American. I'm very proud of Armenia. I would support Armenia every way possible, but that for me is a partnership. So I would come to Armenia and have to live to participate in government here. There are people who come here and live and participate in government. That's not what our role is. Our role is to develop Armenia as a partner. And frankly, at this stage, if things are going so well in Armenia, we should let them take the lead. The government should tell us what their priority list is, and they will communicate it very clearly, and then we'll choose what things we can assist with based on their priority list.
Probably you have already met or you are going to meet Armenian new government, probably Prime Minister and President as well. What kind of questions you have?
I'm very optimistic. You find when there's somebody in leadership, people love to come with ideas. I will not bring ideas to the government. Right now we're in a listening stage. We need to listen to what their priorities are, President, Prime Minister. Once they tell us in which direction we're moving, then we see what we can do in America to assist them. So as you said, if they need technical assistance and they ask for that, we will then ask the US government for technical assistance.
So if we summarize all these questions about Armenian relation of Armenian government with diaspora Armenians, do you think there are new possibilities, new roles to that?
Absolutely. changed. From the taxi driver on the street to people who work in government, people are very energized. That now translates into Armenian Americans, Russian Americans, European Americans to be energized. So we need to recommit ourselves to Armenia and recommit in a different way, allowing Armenia to develop, to speak, to tell us what their priorities are, and for us to follow suit.
You worked with the previous government as well, and now there are some discussions among Armenian society that these organizations will join any government, they will support any government. And there is a question that do you support this government or you will support any government? I mean, do you choose political side? Do you choose the maybe political leader who you will support maybe more?
So we are nonpartisan. So we don't get involved in internal government in Armenia. We support U.S.-Armenia relations. So we support the people of Armenia. So different from other organizations that may actually have a role in government in Armenia, Armenian Assembly is basically supporting Armenia as its people, as its nation. That being said, our job is to work with the leadership of Armenia. I will work with this leadership, and I'll work with the 10 leaderships that come after this, as long as they don't harm the people of Armenia. And that's the real crux of what we try to do. We're there to support Armenians and the people of Armenia. Security, jobs, and a better life going forward for the children of Armenia.
There was a big event in Washington, Smithsonian, and do you think that was the new face of New Armenia there?
That was exactly right. The Smithsonian Folkways Festival could not have happened at a better time. Washington is excited about Armenia. The people of America were excited about Armenia. The good people of the Smithsonian Institute did a wonderful job. We stood by on the mall right in front of the Washington Monument with Armenia, and Catalonia was the other region that was featured. Armenia did an excellent job. The members who came, the artisans, the craftsmen, the musicians were fantastic. We're very proud of the people who came and represented Armenia, and Armenia should be very proud of their people. They did an excellent job in Washington. And even, I think now that there's a new relationship that is developing between the United States and Armenia based on a very positive development of the work that's being done.
I'm sure we have contacts within the U.S. government and Congress. Do you hear any opinion from them about changes in Armenia? Are they interested in it?
So the United States doesn't have a lot of good news these days. So what we have are different things around the world that are good news. The United States government has worked for years to support Armenia. Now their good work has paid off. So this is good news. So when you look at the world, Armenia is a positive story. It's not a negative story. It doesn't talk about conflict or people fighting each other. It's talking about people hand in hand working together. And American Armenians want to work with Armenia, and they know that, the US government. So we as citizens of the United States will work with our government to support Armenia. And there's good news ahead, because now we have something to support that makes America proud.
There was the project, Millennium Project?
Millennium Challenge, right?
Yeah. What do you think? Is there any possibility Armenia to be very involved in this project?
So we're supporting the Millennium Challenge Compact. There was one that was done before. It takes a good 2 years to get it done, because the way they do the scoring, it has to happen, and then the next year they'll provide it. Look, Millennium Challenge was an initiative. It's a good initiative. We want a full package, whether it's $1 billion or like Georgia, $4 billion. We want a large package for Armenia. So our job is to encourage the United States to put together the largest package they can for Armenia to support democracy in the region.
What are the possibilities?
I think the possibilities are endless. Armenia should be rewarded for developing its democracy, for fighting corruption, creating jobs, creating security and stability in the region. We are now a leader in the region.
Unlike Georgia, Armenian government, new government, doesn't say that they are pro-Russian, pro-US, pro-Arab. This is a difference. So if you compare with Georgia, in this case, what you think that having in account this fact, they will not support and include Armenia in the project?
I have no doubt that Armenia will do what's in its best interest. So to your question, I don't want Armenia to be pro anyone. I want them to be pro-Armenia. They have to take care of its people, its security, its nation. In doing so, if it's a democracy, Russia should support it, Europeans should support it, and the United States surely will support it.
New Prime Minister Pashinyan has called diaspora Armenians to come Armenia to live here. Do you know any people, maybe you know a group of people in diaspora who moved in Armenia? Maybe
Many. And I think you'll see more people coming to Armenia. I mean, I would say that if I was the government of Armenia, I'd go back to California where there's plenty of Armenians who left Armenia and say, now is your opportunity to come back and you should come back. This is your homeland, come back. But in doing that, we know a lot of diaspora Armenians who even second, third, fourth generations have come back to Armenia, and that's quite exciting.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add?
No, the only thing I will add is I think we sometimes forget about our different communities around the world, and Syria is something we're working on. We're trying to get funding from the United States to support resettlement of Syrian Armenians here, but also, now that the war seems to be over in Syria, we need to support Syrian Armenians. That is one of our communities, and we can't forget about that. So we're encouraging both the US government and the Armenian government to support those Armenians who live in Syria to bring their lives back to normalization. And that's something we won't forget.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.